6 schedule release special. I'm your host, John Serenitas. And as always, I'm joined by my partner, Kevin Stone. And Kevin, we don't usually like to do these impromptu shows, but we both felt that tonight called for it. So here we are. We're going to talk some Patriot schedule. Of course, the Patriot schedule was unveiled throughout the day today, but it was officially unveiled tonight. Pretty interesting schedule. They have the 6th toughest schedule in the NFL in terms of opponent win percentage. And right out of the gate, Stone, we'll start with the preseason. Now, this is one of those 8 home games, 2 preseason games that the NFL likes to do. Usually, if you have the 9 home games during the regular season, you play the 1 preseason. But because they have the 8 home games, they get the 2 preseason games. The Indianapolis Colts come here on August 13th, and the Philadelphia Eagles will be coming here on August 22nd. So, and then they go to Cleveland on August 27th. So that is the preseason schedule. 2 here, 1 away. So let's just get that out of the way now. And let's just jump right into this and talk about the regular season schedule. And I want to get your thoughts on that. And Mr. G. Fetty, right out of the gate, man. Mr. G. Fetty is a legend. Jumps right in. Hawks, he says. Good to hear from you, brother. First things first, we'll start right there. Mr. G. Fetty said it best. Wednesday, September 9th, they kick off the 2026 season in Seattle against the defending Super Bowl champion Seattle Seahawks. Of course, the Seahawks beating them in Super Bowl 60, 29-13, in a game that was close for about a half, and then Seattle pulled away and quote unquote made it a blowout. I don't know. I would say it was a blowout, but it was a decisive Seattle win nonetheless. Your thoughts on them opening the season in Seattle? And is this something that you wanted, didn't want? I personally did not want this. It's the first time that the NFL is going to have Super Bowl opponents from the previous season open up the next season. The last time they did that was in 2016 when the Carolina Panthers visited the Denver Broncos after Super Bowl 50. Maybe it's because it's after Super Bowl 60. I don't know. But your thoughts on that being the opener?
Well, ironically, that's the last Super Bowl in San Fran where we just were as well. But so a few things. Look, the Wednesday night thing, I hate it. I'm with you. We were just talking about this before we went live. The NFL is just, at some point, it's too much. Wednesday night football is too much. It's just.
Maz talked about that today on 98.5,
Yep.
that it's going to get to a point, Kevin, where I think a lot of people are just going to say, you know what? I'm going to cherry pick what I'm going to watch, but I'm not watching it all.
Yeah.
And Mark Cuban warned us about the gluttony of the NFL a few years ago. And I kind of look back on it now, and at the time I mocked him, but I kind of think he's right. I think that this league, when you look at this schedule, I think that there is a gluttony factor there. I'm not a fan of this Wednesday night opener.
No, it's terrible. Having said that, I said it to you again before we went on the air, but I kind of like
live at WKRP in Cincinnati.
Yeah, right. I kind of like the idea of getting it out of the way on Wednesday and then watching week 1 of the league, while we're home. Obviously, you don't get to do that very often. So that's kind of cool in that regard for fans. You can watch the rest of the league after seeing the Patriots, regardless of what happens. And I don't mind seeing Seattle. Look, banner night aside, Kansas City came in here and ruined yours 1 year. So you can go in and pop them, but it's a different team. Like, they have losses, you have losses. You've both added in free agency. So I don't mind seeing them week 1. And I do hate people. They'll call it a revenge game. It's not. Just stop right now. It's so annoying. It happens every year when you get a Super Bowl rematch. That team is not getting a trophy after a regular season win. So aside from that, it is what it is. And again, I don't hate the idea of seeing Seattle right out of the gate, because who knows? Maybe they don't know who they are yet as well. So all in all, I don't hate it.
I just don't like the Wednesday night aspect of it. I mean,
yeah.
And I'm not crazy about them being the opener for Seattle. I thought it would have been somebody like Chicago. That was speculated. But I think at the end of the day, I think we all knew in this region that collectively this was a possibility, that they could end up opening the season in Seattle. They are, in fact. Look, it's going to be a tough game for them. That's obviously, with the 12s, a tough place to play. It's not an easy place to be the visitor, regardless of what time of the season it is. And yes, Seattle has suffered a lot of losses this offseason in free agency, to be expected when you win a Super Bowl. Patriots are arguably better. I think they got better than this offseason than they were last year. So certainly in my eyes, just based on that, if nothing else, you're going to get a competitive game here. But the Patriots have a very good chance of winning this football game. But it is a tough opener nonetheless. Now, when you look at their schedule and you look at that first quarter of the season, based on last year at least, it's a pretty tough start. Next up is the home opener on September 20th when they host the Pittsburgh Steelers. Of course, Pittsburgh came to town early last season as well. That was, of course, the 5 turnover game that the Patriots lost. The one game that I think most Patriot fans probably would have told you is the one game that truly got away. But when you look at the Pittsburgh Steelers, and it's going to be early in Mike McCarthy's first year on the job, this is a winnable game to me. You gave it away last year. You should have beat this team last year. You have to assume Aaron Rodgers is going to be their quarterback this year. This is a winnable game. This is a game the Patriots should win. I'm going to put it out there right now. I don't think Pittsburgh's going to be very good. I think the Patriots should take care of business in this one.
Yeah, I wrote it earlier on anyfootballjournal.com. You don't turn the ball over 5 times against them, you're hosting the AFC Championship. That game is what cost them. You can say the opener against the Raiders, but that's the opener. It is kind of what it is. It's the first game of the year. That Pittsburgh game cost you the AFC Championship game. Luckily, you ended up getting there. But yeah, no, that's a completely winnable game. And if you are the true defending AFC champions, you don't lose the home opener to that team. You just don't.
No, and again, I don't want to minimize what Pittsburgh is either. That's a talented football team, and they've done a
No,
lot of
but
nice
where you
things.
are, I
Yeah,
think you lose that game.
they've done a lot of nice things this offseason to fortify their roster, specifically the receiver position. Obviously, they're waiting to find out what Aaron Rodgers is going to do. They also fortified the running back position, and we know talent wise, they're really good on defense. Now, they're inconsistent, but we know that defense is going to be able to pressure the quarterback with TJ Watt and Cam Hayward. And we know that as long as their secondary plays well, they're going to give you some problems defensively. So I don't want to just, this isn't chalk by any means. We're not writing this off, but I do think based on where you are right now as an organization and where they're going to be, this is a game you have to win. Now, week through the Patriots are back on the road. In fact, they're on the road for the next 2 weeks. They visit the Jacksonville Jaguars. And I'm going to say it right now. I don't think Jacksonville's going to be as good as they were last year. I think Liam Cohn and his staff caught lightning in a bottle. I don't see them replicating that. A lot of the underlying metrics would suggest that there will be regression there with this Jacksonville team. I also think because of their cap situation, they didn't get better this offseason. So I think that they're a prime contender to take a step back when you look at the teams that made the playoffs last year. Of course, some people will say that about the Patriots. That being said, I think this is another winnable game. I think the Patriots should, and I'm going to say this, not could, should go down there and take care of business because, again, I believe that this Jacksonville team is going to take a step back.
Yeah, I mean, we're gonna say should for all of these. It's May, right? Like, um, I don't think we're gonna do
Well, I
a
don't think we're going to say should for all of them. There's some that,
most.
yeah.
Um, but no, look, it's Jacksonville, right? Like they always kind of do that. They'll make the postseason, have a year or two where you take a step back. I think they do it again. It's what that franchise has been forever.
And of course, week 4 is your first AFC East matchup. They go to Buffalo, the brand new Highmark Stadium. And look, last year, of course, Sunday Night Football, that was the turning point game in their season, if you will. That put them back on the national map, going into Buffalo and winning that Sunday night game. They get the Bills early once again this year at their new place. Buffalo has improved. They've added DJ Moore, amongst others. They did a really nice job in the draft, fortifying their defense. You beat them last year there, but I think it's going to be, and the Patriots have played well in Buffalo in recent years, even when they were bad. I think that is an important point. However, that's a tough game to win. If we want to talk record after 4 weeks, I think at best you're 2-2. I think this is potentially one of their 2 losses.
Yeah, I'd be surprised if they win this game. First time in a new stadium in Buffalo. That team in particular, again, yeah, that's a tough spot.
Yeah, I agree. It is, but I mean, again, I think it is important to point out they have played well there in recent years,
Well,
and I
yeah, and
think couple plays go your way. Let's not forget in 2022, if they win there in week 18, they make the playoffs.
Yeah.
Cam Newton's here in 2020. If he doesn't turn the ball over there when they're driving late, they probably win that game. So they have played well enough there in recent years where that's not some type of a situation where the Bills are the boogeyman and they can't go up there and beat them. They can. They just need to do what they did last year. They need to play well, take care of the football, and they need to make some key stops in the second half. And I thought in that game they did a pretty nice job against Josh Allen as well.
Well, it's funny when you were talking about that game last year. The very first thing that came to mind was Stephon Diggs. And I know we're not doing a regular show, but part of me sort of thinks you might see him in a Patriots uniform again in that stadium, which would be kind of crazy. But we'll get to that on Monday. But again, it's a tough spot. But offensively, they have scored against this Bills team in recent years too. So I mean, they were up 21-0, I think it was, at home and blew that lead this past year. So yeah, you have a point there too.
Yeah, and of course they come back home week 5, October 11th to host Tom Brady's Las Vegas Raiders. They'll be under their new head coach, Clint Kubiak. They'll be better, right? You lost to this team last year, which is frustrating because as much as people point to that Pittsburgh loss, I always go back to that Raiders loss. That game to me, in retrospect, and it's easy to look back and say, geez, none of us knew they would be as good as they ended up being. But that loss ultimately proved to be their worst loss of the season, even though they turned the ball over 5 times against Pittsburgh. And again, it's debatable. People will argue that, and I think that that's fair. Um, Winnable game. Even if you come out of the first 4 weeks at 2-2, you should win this game. The Raiders will be better under Kubiak, but quite frankly, I still think they're going to stink. And I do think that as the season goes on, they're going to be bad. I think Fernando Mendoza probably doesn't play to start. I think Kirk Cousins is their quarterback in the beginning of the season. He could be their quarterback in this game. I think Mendoza plays ultimately, but I think this team's they're gonna experience some growing pains. They will be better, especially on defense, but I think ultimately the Patriots are better and they get it done.
Yeah, it's the Raiders. Like, to your point, you should have won this game last year. Now, I'm on that side. If you can debate, I still think Pittsburgh was worse just because you turned the ball over 5 times in a home game. Just can't happen. But um, yeah, no. Again, if you're the AFC champions and you think last year was not just a fluke year, this is not a game you should lose.
Do we both agree that after 5 games they're 3-2? Is that fair, or do you think they could be better than that?
Yeah, no, that's fair.
Yeah, I agree. I think Seattle and Buffalo are going to be tough games to win on the road in those environments.
Yeah, look,
I think they can go down to Jacksonville and win. I think they'll
yeah,
beat the Raiders. I think they beat Pittsburgh.
yep.
But winning in Seattle and Buffalo could be tough asks early on. We'll see.
Buffalo, I'd be shocked. Seattle, I can't see them popping them that first night just because it is opening night. Little extra pressure, all that, but you never know.
Now, of course, it's interesting because when you look at their schedule at the beginning of the season, week 2, week 3, week 4, week 5, week 6, they're all 1 o'clock kickoffs.
Mhm.
And then it gets gritty with the prime time games.
Yeah,
Week 6, October 18th, the New York Jets come to town. Of course, Patriots beat them in both games last year rather easily. They embarrassed them down in New York. They're going to play them down in New York again late. That'll be Christmas weekend once again. But look, the Jets are another one of these teams that we're going to look at and we're going to say, yeah, they got better. Geno Smith comes back to New York. He's going to be their quarterback. They had a really good draft. They added some more young skill pieces. The offensive line's pretty good. Defense should be better. The Jets will be better. But once again, this is a team you should beat. This is a winnable game.
yeah. Again, you're the AFC champions. You don't lose this game. And look, Geno Smith has beaten you at home now with two different teams back to back years. But it's the Jets. Like, it's just, I refuse to take them seriously.
Yeah, and that's a great point that you bring up because they won here in 24. He won here in 24 with Seattle.
Yeah,
And then, of
OT,
course,
right?
he comes back here and beats the Patriots last year with the Raiders. He has been a thorn in their side, so you never know. Week 7, they're back on the road, and this is a Thursday night game on Prime, 8:15 kickoff to take on the Chicago Bears. A lot of people think the Bears are going to be the Jaguars of the NFC. There's going to be some regression there. They're going to take a step back. I think this is a tough game, and people know I'm not the biggest Caleb Williams guy. but I think Ben Johnson is a really good coach, despite the fact that I think he's a tool. He's a really good coach who's going to get a lot out of that football team. They're going to be well coached on offense. This is a tough game, and this is a game that, in a lot of ways, if you're asking me to pick it in May, it's a toss up to a loss for me. I this is going to be a tough spot for them.
I literally wrote today, tough turnaround traveling on a short week and facing a good Bears team. Assuming health for both teams, to your point, it's a toss up. I think this is why they wanted this in prime time. It's ultimately the matchup. We should have gotten it. I think we should have gotten it a couple years ago, but Caleb Williams and Drake May. It's prime time. It's what this league wants. Again, assuming health, coin flip.
Yeah, and I think for a lot of people like myself who like Drake May better from a quarterback standpoint, had him rated higher in that 24 draft, this is going to be an opportunity for us to look good. If the Patriots go in there, he plays
Yeah.
well and they win. Look, Caleb Williams' numbers are very misleading from last year. He didn't even complete 60% of his passes. And I know a lot of people are already putting him in the top five and they're calling him a top five quarterback. I've never seen it with him. I'm never going to see it, to be quite honest with you, unless he shuts me up by winning a Super Bowl. But for me, this is a golden opportunity for the Patriots on national television to make a statement. And it's they enter the midway point of the season. You are watching the Patriots 2026 schedule release special. I'm your host, John Serenitas. As always, I'm joined by my partner, Kevin Stone. Mr. G. Fetty joins us tonight. He says, nah, you guys are legends. I don't know, Mr. G. Fetty. I don't know if I'd say we're legends, but we definitely love football. So, nonetheless, if anybody here is a legend, it's Stone. It's certainly not me.
Correct.
Week 8, November 1st, Patriots visit the Miami Dolphins to take on old friend Jeff Hafley. Look, I think it's simple. Miami is going to be the worst team in the league this year. It's going to be between them and Arizona, in my opinion, for who's the worst team in the league. They're both going to be competing for the number one pick and the right to potentially draft Arch Manning in 2027. For me, this is a winnable game, despite the fact that Miami has been a house of horrors for the Patriots, even during the Belichick Brady years. The Dolphins are going to be that bad that they should go down there, take care of business, and win probably their 5th game here.
So, on top of it being a relatively easy game, you would think you're catching a break. You go down to Miami in November, not September like you usually do, and it's 425. It's probably not going to be that hot. So maybe it's not the hot
That,
so
by
hard.
the way, that is an odd time for me with them
Miami?
because
Yeah, it's really weird.
they're not going to be very good.
Yeah,
So 425 is a prime slot. I it surprises me that they put that game there. I mean, the league knows they're not going to be very good. The Patriots are the Patriots. The expectation is that they're
sure.
going to be a playoff contender and potentially a Super Bowl contender. But why the hell would you put the Miami Dolphins in that time slot? It just blows me away. That makes zero sense. But then again, a lot of the things that this league does make zero sense to me.
True. But hey, you never know. Maybe it's just a Drake May showcase. Maybe that's what they wanted at 425 that particular week. You never know.
All right, so let's take a quick look at where we think they'll be record wise from that point on. I have them at, so we got one, two, three. So we've got 8 games in. I have them at 5-3 at that point. What do
Yeah,
you have them as?
good. Right around there. Yeah.
Yep. All right, then November 9, week 9 rather, November 8th is a big one. The Green Bay Packers come to town. That's a 4:25 kickoff. That'll be a Fox game, which is not a surprise. I think we all knew that it would be. Big test for the Patriots because the one thing with this Green Bay team is, yes, they can be very inconsistent and they can be mind-numbing for Packer fans like myself. But at the end of the day, this is a talented football team that's very good on offense, has Micah Parsons on defense. This is going to be a tough game for the Patriots at home.
So yes. And I don't know if you saw that's a Brady game. Brady's going to be here for that one with Fox, which is also pretty cool. It's about time that he does a game at Gillette. There's a statue of him outside. He should have been here already. But that game, and I wrote this today. That feels like a throwback jersey game for the Patriots. Just an old school classic. Two classic franchises. The Raw Day, November Day. That's sort of football in its purest that day, regardless of what the teams look like health wise or anything like that. But if they are both healthy, that's another great quarterback matchup. There's a lot of them on the schedule this year where Drake May can kind of prove himself against the rest of the league.
Do they win this one? They've owned Green Bay at home in recent years, even when the Packers were good.
I'd say coin flip again.
Yeah, I
I
think
don't
it's a
know.
coin flip game too. And again, this Packers team is so wildly inconsistent. You don't know what you're going to get.
Yeah.
So I think it could go either way. I agree with you. All right, week 10, they go to Germany on November 15th to take on the Detroit Lions. Of course, that game was announced yesterday. It's the international game. I'm not going to bore people with my feelings on the international games. I'm not a fan. I'm glad that JJ Watt came out today and echoed that same sentiment that it's become a circus. Unfortunately, we're heading in a direction where eventually they're going to expand the regular season. They're going to carry the Super Bowl into President's Day weekend, and every team is going to play an international game, and they're going to be played on a week to week basis. I think it's ridiculous. I'll take it a step further, Stone. I think this is just the beginning. They're going into Australia now, Brazil, Germany, Spain, Mexico. I think it's only a matter of time before they're in Italy, before they're in Greece. They're designating teams, countries in Europe. They're designating teams as the teams of countries in Europe. For example, the Chargers are Greece's team because of the Spanos family. I'm sure Italy has a team, whoever that maybe it's the Ravens because of Steve Bisciotti. He's Italian. But I think at the end of the day, this is only the beginning. You're going to see them eventually back in Japan. And I think that eventually they'll end up getting into China too. It's only a matter of time.
Well, it might have been you mentioned Maz earlier. Earlier, someone today mentioned having an NFL, division, a European division, with all different countries. That could be a possibility at some point. The Patriots have Germany. I believe they're the designated team for Germany. So, yeah, no, I hate it. At one point, it was cool. You wake up at 9 a.m. and you have a game on. I do still like that once in a while, not every week or for a 5 or 6 week stretch, whatever it might be. But you're catching a break here again. You're not dealing with the Detroit environment. It's not a true home game for a pretty good Lions team. So I think it's another coin flip game.
Well, and really, if you think about it, based on the Patriots' popularity, it's going to end up playing like
Home
a
game, maybe.
Patriots home game. It's
Yeah.
going to be almost as if they have the ninth home game this year. So, yeah, I agree, and I think even though it's going to be quote unquote a road game and you'll be in your whites, I do think that it'll be a pro Patriots crowd, and I think that ultimately helps the Patriots. I like the Patriots in this game. I'm picking them to win this game. I think they go over there and they get it done. Detroit's going to be very interesting to me. They made coordinator changes. Drew Petzig, who you've interviewed before, Wellesley guy, he's going to be their offensive coordinator. But this is a big year for Dan Campbell because the gloss wore off the baseball card a little bit for them last year. They need to bounce back and be a playoff team. They're a talented team, one of the more talented rosters in the league, but this is a team that also has a lot of uncertainty. As we saw last year, they just, once the two coordinators left, they couldn't replicate the success that they had down the road. Week 11, they have their bye. Their bye is late once again, but it's not as late as it has been in recent years.
No, I think it's a perfect time. You still have what, one, two, what, 5, 6 games left after that, but it's a nice little break. You come back from the trip. I don't know if you remember, I don't think Mayo took the bye after their last Germany trip, if I'm not mistaken, which is a wild call to me. Obviously, you take
Yeah.
that bye. So,
Yeah.
uh, yeah, good time for it.
And then they come back on week 12, which will be November 29th, and they have a Sunday night game at Los Angeles against the Chargers. That's a lot of travel in a 3 week span. You got to go to Germany, which becomes an all week thing. Yes, you get the bye, but then you come off the bye and you got another long trip where you got to get on a plane and go over to the West Coast. That's a lot of travel. This is a tough game for them, in my opinion. Now, the Chargers are one of those teams that I think could potentially be really good. And I feel like we say this about them every single year, but Jim Harbaugh is not Brandon Staley. He is a really good coach. And I like what they've done this offseason. I do think that they're going to be a factor in the AFC. This is going to be a tough game for the Patriots to win.
Yeah, but you're kind of catching another mini break here with the 8:25 kickoff. That whole East Coast West Coast thing doesn't come into play. Even if it was a 4 o'clock game, would have been one here. You catch a mini break in that regard too. But yeah, you're right. The Chargers are always supposed to be this team. I can remember the LT teams with Philip Rivers and Vincent Jackson and all those guys, Antonio Gates, and they ended up choking in the play. Oh,
I got you.
that was weird. Um, Sorry.
Well, the internet can only
Uh,
handle so much of your bullshit. So,
yeah, right. They got me all rattled. Um, Look, overall, it's the Chargers. That's where I'll leave it.
and of course, they come back home, and this is a tough stretch for them because they have two primetime games in 3 weeks. They come back home week 13 for a home game against the Buffalo Bills, and it's interesting because we were sitting here earlier in the show talking about how much success they've had playing in Buffalo and how they've
Mm.
almost won a few games even when they were bad. Conversely, when you look at the way they've played at home against Buffalo, aside from them beating them in Mayo's last game, they have not played well at home against the Bills in recent years. This is one of those games, and they lost to them last year. This is one of those games that is another one of these quote unquote trap games. And let's not forget, had they hosted the AFC title game, that would have meant that Buffalo won in Denver. They'd be coming here. It would have been during the middle of a blizzard. I'm not sure they get to Super Bowl 60 if they have to play the Bills, especially in those conditions. So this is a tough game for them, and it should be once again this year.
I completely forgot about that. What a crazy scenario that would have been. That game would have been played on Monday, probably. Like you
Yeah,
probably would have had the AFC championship.
potentially.
Yeah, that's nuts. Um, you should beat them here. Again, that you have to hope. You hope that there's a lot on the line for that game. You hope Josh Allen and Drake May, are that next big rivalry, and they're playing for something big at that point in the year. But you should be beating that team at home. You should be splitting with them every year now. At this point, as long as these two guys are the quarterbacks of this team, you should be going 1-1 with Buffalo every year.
Friend of the show, Bill Vaughn checks in. Great to hear from you, Bill. He says, as an attendee of for every home game, very happy 4 or 5 primetime games on the road. Yep, Bill,
Yeah,
thanks for checking in. We appreciate it. We would agree
yeah,
as attendees of every home game as well. I'd much rather. I hate to be self-serving, but I'd much rather cover these primetime games from the comfort of my own couch.
yeah.
So
No, well, I will admit I did get the travel bug heading out to California, so I might go to a game or two. But no, it is
I
much
would
easier.
love if we were able to go on the road. Unfortunately, we're not a big enough operation to do that
No,
on a week to week basis like
no,
some
God,
of
no,
our other media brethren.
no, absolutely not. That will
We
we can
will be
make
in New York to cover the Jets game. I mean,
yes.
that's
Um,
not a big ask, but
yeah, no, no. Maybe Buffalo. We'll see. Um, yeah, no. I don't know what the. Yes, go.
all right. Yes, you ran out of thoughts there. Bill, thanks
Yeah,
for
no, that
checking
was
in. We appreciate it.
yeah.
Stone ran out of thoughts. Week 14, December 10th. They're back at home for a short turnaround. They play on the 6th, and then they come back 4 days later
Mm.
to take on Kyler Murray and the Minnesota Vikings. That's the prime game. That's their second Thursday night game. They're at home. Second NFC North opponent on a Thursday night. This is a tricky game because I don't know what this Minnesota team is going to be. They're talented. We know that much. You got Justin Jefferson. You got Jordan Addison, TJ Hawkinson. Good offensive line. We know how good their defense is going to be. It's going to be the return of Brian Flores. He comes back to Foxborough. So on paper, this is a pretty good football team. But what is their quarterback situation going to be? And is Kyler Murray even going to be their quarterback by that point? This is a tricky game. That's another one of these toss-up games.
Yeah, no, I was just gonna say wrote coin flip game earlier. If Kevin O'Connell figures it out on offense, you have to hope this defense is what we think it can be. But Brian Flores' defense is going to give you a hard time.
They're
Like
going to
no
give you a
matter
lot
what.
of problems, especially
Yeah,
with their pressure packages.
yeah. So no matter what, that's going to be a low scoring game.
Yeah, and Kyler Murray's either going to make Kevin O'Connell look like Kevin O'Connell, or he's going to
Right.
make him look like Kevin Stone. Because at the end of the day, it's gonna go either really well with him there, and he's going to be a nice fit, or it's going to go south. And I think if it does, and I think it's going to happen sooner than later during the season. I don't think he's going to play well for a stretch and then fall off.
No.
Um, Another big one on in week 15, they hit the road again. This time it's another primetime game. Their only appearance of the season on Monday Night Football. They're in Kansas City to take on, as Chris Collinsworth would call him, Patrick Mahomes. And the Kansas City Chiefs. Mahomes obviously will be back by then. The Chiefs should be back this season. They should be back in playoff contention. They should be back in Super Bowl contention, provided he's back healthy to start the season. This is going to be a tough game for them. We know that. But in a lot of ways, this is a late season litmus test for them because this game is going to have playoff implications. This could end up being a must-win game for them in terms of playoff positioning and seeding. This is a big one.
Yeah, it's like you read the whole thing I wrote today before we even did this. I wrote that today. It's you hope that there's something on the line here. Like you hope that both of these teams aren't struggling 500 or just trying to get in. You hope there's legitimate playoff seeding on the line, and obviously you hope again it's another good quarterback matchup with Drake May and Patrick Mahomes. So um, ideally that's worth something, and again it's not a matchup of 500 teams.
And then you stay on the road for week 16, 2 days after Christmas. They go down in New Jersey to take on the Jets. Should be a winnable game. At this point, the Jets will be out of it. You're probably still playing for something just like you were last year if you're the Patriots. I don't think they muck them the way they did last year. I think this will be more of a struggle than last year's game, but Patriots should win this game and take care of business. And they'll be extra motivated to do it if they're coming off a loss to Kansas City.
Yeah, I mean, just go back to the Geno Smith factor. You never know with him. But again, it's the Jets. I have a hard time taking them seriously at any point.
And of course, we kick off 2027 with two home games. The final two games of the regular season are both at home. Denver Broncos come to town. It's either going to be anywhere from January 2nd to the 4th. I think this is going to be a very tough game. Sean Payton, we know they're well coached. This is a team that's not only a playoff contender, but a Super Bowl contender. This game is massive, in my opinion. There could be a lot on the line in this game against Denver.
Yeah, another one. You hope there is, and you got to think that's either Sunday night or Monday night if there is a lot on the line there.
There will be a lot on the line. And the one thing we can say about the Denver Broncos is they'll be well coached on offense. Bo Nix, really good skill group. They added Jalen Waddle this offseason. You have Cortland Sutton. You have a really good receiver group. RJ Harvey and a talented running back room. Garrett Bowles, talented offensive line. And we know that defense. Vance Joseph's defense is going to come after you. Nick Benito, they could really pressure the quarterback. Patrick Surtain in the secondary. That's a really good secondary. This Denver team is a Super Bowl contender. They're not just a playoff contender. In my opinion, they should win the AFC West. I know everybody is expecting a revival from the Chiefs with Mahomes returning, but I think at the end of the day, if Denver stays healthy and plays up to their potential, and they have a lot of talent on that roster, they should be the favorite in the AFC West coming into the season. This is a tough way to finish if you're the Patriots, and of course, they wrap up the regular season week 18 against old friend Jeff Hafley, who makes his return to New England, and the Miami Dolphins. Game you should win. By that point, the Dolphins are probably playing a backup quarterback and backups. They're probably
Mm.
positioning themselves for the number one pick at that point. So you should take care of business in that one.
Yeah, just going back to Denver. I watched the AFC Championship the other day. You should not have won that game. If Denver has a quarterback, they win that football game. So,
Of course they do. Yeah,
so
you're not going to San Francisco. You're not going to California for the first time.
no, correct.
I mean, neither one of us is covering a Super Bowl. A lot of us aren't covering a Super Bowl. So you're
Right.
right.
Um, so again, that's another one. You hope that there's something on the line. You hope Bo Nix and Drake May are both playing. I want to see that since we get to see it last year. So, and as far as Miami goes, um, you hope you can just hit everyone at that point. But if you do have something to play for, you should, to your point, have an easy opponent to do so.
All right. So everybody's favorite exercise as we wrap up the show is how do you think they're going to finish? So, what is your predicted record early? Your early predicted record for the 2026 Patriots?
12-5.
12-5.
Yeah.
Wow,
Yeah.
that's bullish.
I think there's a way. Um, you have to get a little lucky, obviously, but every team has to say that every year, right? Like whether it's injuries, quarterback situations, whatever it might be, coaching situations. So you got to get lucky, but um, I think they've gotten better in the offseason. I think you feel that way too. So you should be able to get 12 wins if you are, again, the defending AFC champions. Like you shouldn't
Well,
have
you're
that.
not going to get 12 wins just because you're the defending AFC
No,
champions.
no,
That's not a thing.
no, but where your program is, what I'm saying, you should be able to win 12 games in this league, regardless of your schedule. So I think there's a way for them to do it.
Well, I'm going to go through the schedule and give you my win-loss record, my early win-loss record. Week 1, they lose. They're 0-1. Week 2, they beat Pittsburgh. They're 1-1. Week 3, they beat Jacksonville. They're 2-1. Week 4, I think they lose to Buffalo. They're 2-2. Week 5, they beat Vegas. They're 3-2. Week 6, they beat the Jets. They're 4-2. Week 7, they go to Chicago. I think they lose. So I think they're 4-3. And then week 8 rather. I'm sorry. Week 8, they go to Miami. I think they win. So what is that? 5-3?
You sound like Mike Francesa right now.
Week 9, they play the Green Bay Packers here. I think they win. So I think they're 6-3. Week 10, they go to Germany. They take on the Detroit Lions. I think they win. They're 7-3. They have the bye. Week 12, Chargers in LA. I think they lose, so they're 7-4. Week 13, they have the Buffalo Bills here. I think they lose again. They're 7-5. They beat Minnesota week 14. They're 8-5. Week 15 at Kansas City, I think they lose. They're 8-6. Week 16 against the Jets, they win, so they're 9-6. Week 17 versus Denver, I think they win. They're 10-6. And then they beat the Dolphins week 18. So I have them at 11-6.
Yeah, right around the same range. Again, I just think you've gotten better in the offseason. You should be able to win 11 or 12 games in this league.
Yeah. No, I agree. All right. Final thoughts, Stone.
A lot of late nights, but it means you're back. Like there's a reason you're in these spots. Regardless of what you think that reason is, whether it's Jake May, whether it's the head coach, whether it's just people loving and hating the Patriots, you're back in prime time. You got flexed out of these games not too long ago. That's how bad it was. So, as bad as it is to not have the usual, Sunday routine, you're back in prime time.
Yeah, I agree. I think 10-7, 11-6, 12-5 at best. That's probably your win-loss window there. I think that's what you're looking at. But I think 10 wins and you're a playoff team. I think you're a playoff contender with 10 wins. So I think again, that's your window right there. 10-7, 11-6, 12-5. I think that they're good enough to do that. Of course, as always, they've got to stay healthy. I think that's the key. But I think if they do that, they can stay healthy. They're a better football team. They're a more talented football team. If they can stay healthy, I think 100%. I think that they're certainly a team that, if nothing else, you're anywhere from a 5 to a 7 seed in a playoff team. So we'll see. And again, I think ultimately, look, for the division, it comes down to them at Buffalo. And I think that the winner of that division is obviously a Super Bowl contender. I think if you don't win the division, you can still be a Super Bowl contender. But I do think that you're probably in the bottom of the AFC bracket. But the bottom line is this should be a playoff team in 2026.
Yeah, that the expectation bare minimum should be the playoffs. The rest of the AFC has a lot of questions. KFC, KC has has Mahomes
Yeah, we
coming
got to
back.
go. It's late.
I know. Has Mahomes coming back from the ACL.
KFC.
Yeah, that's so bad. You never know with Baltimore. Pittsburgh new head coach. So all of the usual suspects. Denver's the only one that's really consistent right now. So you should be right back there.
Yeah. No, I agree with you. All right, Stone. Great job, man. Great
Thank
job as always. And let's do this again on Monday night.
Sounds good.
All right. That'll do it for this Patriots 2026 schedule release special. For Kevin Stone, I'm John Serenitas. We'll talk to you next time.